8:20 flock on Sunday, November 3rd, and this is the post game of the post game, if you will. So welcome inside the channel. We got a lot to discuss after the Ravens put a thumping on the Denver Broncos inside the bank. 41-10 was the final. Baltimore improves to 6-3 now. Pittsburgh has its bye. They're still sitting top, at least in the loss column, at 6-2. And tonight's episode is brought to you by my friends at Preston Automotive Group. Lots to discuss today. Of course, we're going to hear from the Denver side of things. And it was just beaten down, dejected, defeated. But they faced the music. And Sean Payton, I thought, ate his words based on some halftime comments that he gave to the CBS broadcast. Bo Nix gave Lamar Jackson a whole lot of flowers and admiration. Nate Burleson, CBS analyst, said something that I don't think there's enough focus on right now. And, of course, we got to talk about this Ravens trio of Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and Zay Flowers, because these three led the way. And, of course, it all starts and ends with MV3, who just continues to cement his legacy, continues to cement what his MVP candidacy is now through 9 weeks. And the Ravens have a quick turnaround, of course, coming up on Thursday night with the in-division Cincinnati Bengals coming to town. That'll be a primetime kickoff at 8:15 inside the bank. Looking forward to that Week 10 matchup. But let's begin here with what Lamar was all about. And by the way, you do see that the guest lines are open. We'll get people in and out, different voices and whatnot, to review the day that was in Baltimore. In the live chat, you'll see a pinned comment. You have the Preston Automotive site link. I would love for you to check them out. And also the guest line link if you'd like to call in and share a thought with me. But we'll begin here. A perfect passer rating for the fourth time in his storied career for Lamar Jackson. Ben Roethlisberger, the only other player with 4 perfect passer rater games. By the way, Lamar could have had a fifth from earlier in the year. What do you have? Only, what was it, the night of the Tampa Bay game? It was like a fraction of a point or something along those lines. Otto Graham, Kurt Warner, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, all 3. So it's elite categories and an elite company, I should say, for Lamar and company. Terms of what he's putting forth right now. Former NFL QB Chase Daniel, one of the many around the NFL world to be weighing in on what they're watching right now. And Chase says there isn't another QB in football playing better than Lamar, and it's not even close. He was 16 for 19, 280 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns. Chase says he's more accurate than he's ever been. He gets through progressions faster than he ever has, and he puts more stress on defenses this year. That is absolutely, certainly the case. Wait till you hear what the Broncos had to say about him. RG3 weighing in. By the way, the 5 consecutive games with at least 275 yards passing, that is a new Ravens franchise record. All right. Again, the 4th perfect game when it comes to passer rating. And yeah, RG3, he's keeping receipts on last year's nugget of Lamar not being quarterbacky for one radio personality. How's that one aging? Not very well. And whether it's through the air, outside the numbers, screen game, intermediate game, on the ground, which he wasn't asked to do a lot of today, he's going to beat you one way or the other. How about past the sticks? 8 for 8, 195 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, and a perfect passer rating. The guy was absolutely electric. And look at some of the throwing angles that he took. I thought this photo right here from the NFL did a good job of illustrating the way that his arm can angle and torque. Those are the types of growth opportunities that you see from Lamar, that he's fitting the football into these tight windows, right? These narrow lanes. I think about the Rashad Bateman drop earlier today. That was fit where only Rashad could get to it from Lamar. And Bates got to haul that in. He's got 3 drops now in 2 games, 2 of which were on 3rd down last week in Cleveland. It's got to be better. But this is about Lamar. This is about his refinement as a passer. And that was something, or just him in general, was something that Bo Nix on the opposing side, the Broncos QB, talked about post-game earlier. Listen to this.
He played really well. Again, he's a phenomenal football player. Throws the ball really well. He had used several arm angles today that was just really good and hard to do what he does on a consistent basis. He missed some practice this week and came out and looked very sharp. So props to him. He's a phenomenal player. That's why he's got all the accolades that he does. And was able to see him for a brief time after the game, and it's just a mutual respect. We've both been in each other's shoes. We understand what it's like to navigate the craziness, and I just think it's special to be able to share a field with a guy like that, and hopefully there's many more.
Well said there from Bo Nix. Of course, he spent quite a few years at the college ranks, and I think it shows. Auburn, then transferred to Oregon. He had a lot of starts under his belt coming into the NFL, and I think he's got a bright future ahead. He definitely missed some plays today, at least 2 wide open throws that would have went for 6. But I was impressed by Bo's mobility. It doesn't show up in the stat sheet per se, 6 for 36 on the ground, but his escapability is exceptional. And I thought he's got a motor back there. He's got some elusiveness that I wasn't aware of, and I haven't watched a whole lot of Bo Nix over the years. But I think Denver's got a good one there, and obviously they're just trying to rebuild here under Sean Payton in year 2 or year 3 or whatever it is for him. Maybe was it one and done for Bo, or excuse me, for Sean and Russ, whatever the case may be. Bo was 19 for 33 through the air, 223 yards, a pick on that opening drive, the second play from our Darius Washington. The Jugs machine reps, I guess, paid off for a quarterback rating of 65.6. So a tough day for the rookie. John Harbaugh's dominance against rookies continue, but I thought that was well said from Bo. And speaking of Sean Payton, who I referenced a little while ago, first and foremost, this was a star-studded matchup in terms of head coaching accolades over the years. Both of these guys, while they're not the most longest tenured ever, being that Sean just got to Denver, but John has been in Baltimore since 2008, which I believe was the year that Sean began coaching in New Orleans. So these guys have been around, they've seen everything, and both had 165 career wins, I think was the number entering today in regular season play or just as an NFL head coach. So while their two teams are in different phases of their respective organizational trajectories and whatnot, these guys have been around and they're 2 veteran coaches. And I thought Sean had to eat his words a little bit when talking about Lamar Jackson post-game because of some of the comments he made at halftime, which suggested that they want to keep Lamar in the pocket. And as teams have figured out more and more as the evolution of Lamar continues, that's not going to cut it if you want to win football games based on his development and based on what they've put around him playmaking-wise. Here's Sean Payton.
At halftime on the broadcast about trying to keep Lamar in the pocket. I mean, just obviously he's a terrific player, but how much harder does that get? When
gets harder when he's, obviously you get the holding call, you extend the coverage. So, there's going to be a number of things that when we do our meeting tomorrow and we say, all right, if we played him again next week, what would we have done differently? We have to ask ourselves those questions. Certainly that would be one of them. He's too good a player.
How did you feel about his composure in the pocket? Because there were some plays that maybe in the old days he would have taken off and ran and stayed in the pocket, completed the pass.
I wasn't. I mean, we were into the game. He was the offensive player of the year. I mean, so I felt his composure looked pretty composed.
Sean Payton there, by the way, correction. He began with the Saints in 2006. John Harbaugh 2 years later, of course, with the Ravens in 2008. But yeah, from the pocket, keeping Lamar in the pocket, it's not a winning strategy. I mean, I showed you the numbers a little while ago in terms of what this guy does. It doesn't matter. Look at him. He's perfect past the sticks. He's perfect when he lofts a ball with touch perfectly to Justice Hill. He's perfect stepping up in the pocket, evading and escaping pressure, and firing a strike to Zay Flowers, who was improvising off of his route in the end zone when he saw that Lamar was in no man's land. Lamar is just exceptional. And it's a pick your poison offense in Baltimore. the numbers don't tell the whole story. He didn't do anything on the ground today because he wasn't asked to do anything on the ground. 3 carries for 4 yards. Now, is that an indication of why he missed some plays this week? John Harbaugh and company, of course, wanted to downplay it as rest, as being rest-related, his absences. But when it popped up on the injury report, it wasn't NIR, not injury-related. It was back and knee designations. Well, beside the point, he's clearly healthy enough to do what he did today. But think about it. What makes Lamar electrifying didn't even show up on tape today from a ground game standpoint. And he's here to tell you, wait a second, I'm just as electrifying as a full-fledged traditional quarterback through the air. How do you like me now? I think the Broncos probably aren't liking it very much. So much so, listen to how dejected they were at the opportunity they had before the half to cash in and cut that 2-touchdown lead in half.
The half, you guys had a chance to be down, I think 17-14, and then next time you touch the ball, it's 31-10. Just how crucial was that?
Yeah, that's tough. That before half, the that penalty on a touchdown, that's deflating for a drive, and then they hats off to them. They executed better on offense than we did, and they made plays when it mattered, and they were explosive. So we got to continue to do that, and overall that it was one of those points in the game that sometimes doesn't go in your favor, and I think we just got to, as an offense at least, we got to stop the bleeding with points sooner than we did.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what happened in the third quarter, but I believe they had probably, a 12-minute drive, something like that. At least that's what it felt like. So, when you have an entire quarter taken away from you as an offense, you're like, that 3 and out really cost you, and so that's what we need to do moving forward is when our defense gives us a 3 and out, we need to hold on to that ball, drive down, good field position, get some points, be good in the red zone. So there's a lot of corrections we need to make here.
I don't even know what happened in the third quarter. Quinn Miners, a guard for the Broncos offensive line, meaning I don't even know what happened because they just sucked up the clock and we're out on the field, and I was just on the sideline waiting to come back. That's what this Ravens offense does. It demoralizes you. They had 24 first half yards on the ground, people. They finished with 127. Okay, this was a Denver defense in terms of rankings, as we discussed on the pregame show earlier this morning, before all hell broke loose on the pregame show, I might add. But remember what we discussed? Let me make sure to pull up the right slide. We discussed where Denver's defense ranked coming in. Pretty much top 10 in all categories. Now, we also mentioned that the Ravens were going to pose a different type of challenge than they had seen to date. And I even said something as asinine as that I thought this was the best defense the Ravens had seen since week 1 in Kansas City. That didn't necessarily end up being the case, now did it? But look at the rankings. They're top 10 in every defensive category right now, league-wide, aside from third down defense. And they weren't that bad today against the Ravens. Ravens were 3 for 8 in third down efficiency. But what I wanted to bring up about this statistic specifically is that Denver's defense entering today, 4.4 yards per play allowed, okay, as a defense. That was first in the NFL. You want to know what the Ravens ended up averaging? 7.3 yards per play. They blew up that average of theirs. They blew it up. That's what this offense does. I mean, they're averaging over 7 yards per play this season. We're entering week 10. That's still the most by any team since at least 2000. The Broncos hadn't allowed 24 points in a game since the opening week of the season, over a month ago. The Ravens had 24 points with 30 minutes to play. And I thought CBS analyst Nate Burleson, when you really look at how they did this, made a great point that speaks to just how much variety and depth and ways to beat you this Ravens offense embodies. and has.
It's pick your poison. Like, what does he mean by that? They have Zay Flowers who stepped up. He's looking like a true number one. We know what the running backs are going to do. And I say running backs plural because it's not just Justice Hill did his thing. It's not just Derrick Henry. Lamar's playing with the most composure in all of the NFL. That's why I said they call him MB3. And then I'll look at 2 tight ends. Mark Andrews had 2 catches today. Really didn't do anything, and they didn't need to. Isaiah Likely, 0 catches. What does that mean? If these guys don't have to contribute, but they're still lighting you up on offense, that's who they are. Week in and week out, they can choose whoever they want to attack your specific weaknesses. Yeah. That's why the Ravens are so tough right now.
And my dumbass predicted a big game for the tight ends. I thought to myself, Denver's going to try and take away the run, which they had some success with, even though the Ravens were just throwing it through the air in the first half, just 24 rushing yards in the first, like I mentioned. And I thought to myself, with how stacked they are at secondary, with Pat Surtain being all world, and Riley Moss playing some good football for them as well as a lockdown corner, I thought, oh, this is a big game for the intermediate part of the field. Mark and Isaiah, here we go. They combined for 2 catches, 26 yards. Isaiah had 1 target. Mark had 2 targets, and he caught both footballs, 2 for 26. Like it's honestly laughable in the best of ways for the Ravens, given what they offer, we haven't even gotten to King Henry yet. We literally have not even gotten to the King yet. And before we do, allow me to tell you about Preston Automotive Group. Kate Timmons from the marketing department was kind enough to spend a few minutes with me today on the pregame show. And you guys know for over a year now, I've been rocking my Bobby Baltimore Bronco Sport, the white slick edition. It's been an awesome experience. Good on mileage. Tilly's comfortable in the back seat. We went over to Annapolis and did Great Frogs Winery yesterday on a beautiful fall day. Hit Chop Tank in downtown Annapolis afterwards. Was driving around my friends. It was an awesome day, and the Bronco always comes with me. Bobby Baltimore subscribers at Preston receive 2 exclusive offers: $500 towards a new or pre-owned vehicle, or when you buy 4 tires, you'll receive 50% off your alignment. You've got over 2,000 vehicles to shop from. Home delivery is an available option for you. You'll be joining the Preston team along with Mark Andrews, Kyle Hamilton, and many more throughout the Baltimore area and beyond, including myself. Cars cost less with Preston. You can get started today by visiting PrestonMotor.com. You can click on the link that's included in the live chat as a pinned comment, or just simply scan the QR code in the upper right-hand corner. And you can see right now the site in the right-hand corner of this screen, PrestonMotor.com, and my specific URL where you can reach out to them, contact them. They have a 24/7 site operator, Leah. You can chat with her right now, and then peruse through the available inventory section and break down your vehicle by year, make, model, location, dealership, body style. Preston's the move. I'm so thrilled to be with them. I thank them for their support and belief in what I'm building, and I hope you guys will support them as well. Let's get to the guest lines here. My guy's been holding literally all day, and I think I had to put you on hold for multiple hours because of today's snafu. Snafu is not the right word, but it became a circus, didn't we? We'll get back to King Henry in just a second. The guest lines are open. If you'd like to call in, hit that link that's included in the pinned comment section. I'm sure I got a few questions coming from my guy down in Mexico City right now. Manuel joins us from the Mexico Ravens flock, a.k.a. part-time co-host. Yes, I'm still waiting for the invoice. How you doing, brother?
Hey, I was going to ask you about that, but hey, congrats, man. You scored a touchdown today. So
Listen, hey. I couldn't let Lamar be the only dude that was getting after the perfect passer rating kind of day, right, Joel?
Hey, 1 for 1. Literally 1 for 1, because you just saw her and you're like, hey, I got to meet her.
Here she is right here. She's saying, she says, yeah, I'm hurting. I think those orange crushes did a number on her.
Oh,
so there you have it. But what were your takeaways from today?
For as much as a sweet victory it was in a way, I think it was more so the panic that Bo Nix felt on the pocket, just to, hey, they're eating so much clock. I need to score fast. I need to move the ball fast. So it's like passing situations. So yes, he's a rookie. He's going to learn, because if everybody watched the game, a few of those passes that he missed, a 3-year-old veteran or even a 2-year-old veteran can actually thread the needle to those passes and their completions. And that would have been a whole different story, a whole different ball game. So for as much as the defense was in between quotes stellar, I would say, hey, I know it's a good game right now for us in general, but I want to see them against Cincinnati because on that Cincinnati game, we let T. Higgins and Jamar Chase ran loose. And right now, if we really want to put them down, like literally put them down, because if they lose this game, it's not just in the division loss. They literally got no hopes of getting back up. So I really hope the defense and EDC gets us a pass rusher. No Darius Smith. You can go for Clowney. You can go for Campbell. You could go, hey, even Judon. I know Judon had his event with Jamison Hensley, but hey, I don't care. As long as it's a pass rusher that knows what Zach Ort's trying to implement, we're fine.
The defense still did, as we talked about in the postgame show on the vault, still allow 319 yards. And Cortland Sutton had himself a day. You know, there were a couple chunk runs there for Javonte at running back. So there's absolutely, I think you make a great point, and I try to do the exact same thing in the post-game show earlier. If Bo converts on those two missed throws, which would have went for easy sixes, they're feeling so much better about themselves going into the half. And it wouldn't have completely ballooned on them had they won the toss too in the beginning.
Yep.
I mean, the Ravens winning the toss in the beginning and getting the ball out of the half, and what they did going into the half. I mean, that was the ball game right there. Yep. And so I'm totally with you. That it's just not going to fly. And it goes to the greater point of it was good today. It was good against Dallas, right? It was good other weeks. We got, Ravens got somewhat lucky in Cincinnati based on that Burrow interception. I know Marlon made a good play, but there was a little bit of luck sprinkled in there as well. And so that's not going to fly down the stretch. And so, between now and Tuesday at 4 Eastern, to your point, EDC's got to be working those phones. Azeez Ojulari is a guy that's been talked about. Zadarius Smith looks to be heading to Detroit, just so everybody's aware. That was a report that kind of was lost in the shuffle of today. Jadeveon Clowney, would he be leaving Carolina? No, he sure as hell probably wants to. But Sarah mentioned that the report that she heard from Rappaport said they're not listening. Well, maybe that'll change based on Eric's call. And I think this is, you know what, and I'll finish here because I want to get to the king here.
Yeah.
I think while we can all respect and appreciate how savvy this front office has been, how much they value their draft compensation, right? The draft is their bedrock. It's the foundation of this organization. We've heard that time and time and time again. Sometimes you got to be able to give up something that you value to get to where you want to go. And the Ravens can't get to where they want to go this year with the current state of their defense. And if that means you have to give up something that you really covet, I think it's worth considering.
Yeah, and I think towards your point, if we have to give up a high draft just to get to the Super Bowl, I mean, you got to remember what the Rams did for 2 years in order for them to get their Super Bowl at their home. They had to give up huge amounts of draft capital, but they got to the Super Bowl. They won it in their house. Do you think they care for the next 2 seasons if they actually were bad? No, they didn't care because they knew that it paid off. They gave up Stafford. They gave up to get, I can't remember who it was on the defensive side that they had to get. I think it was Mack Von Miller. They had to get Von Miller in order for them to actually help Aaron Donald. So the payoff was there. Yes, it was lackluster the next 2 years, but their fandom is like, we don't care. We put it all in and we won. So we got the ring.
I appreciate the call, brother. We'll have to see how less than 48 hours, my friend. It's coming up.
You got to keep us updated, huh? You got to keep us updated.
Before the end of the stream, we will revisit, just in case those of you may not have heard or seen or listened to the show from this morning, a little bit of a love interest that's budding here. We will address that and catch everybody up to date
All right.
on a
See
few
you.
of these exchanges here. All right. I appreciate you.
If you need assistance, just let Julian and me know, and we can take the show.
Right. That's right. I appreciate you, brother. We'll get back to the guest lines in just a bit. Jewel, I see you holding. I see a few of you guys holding down there. We've got over 1,000 concurrents here joining me tonight. The post game of the post game. Watching Joe Flacco, by the way, with the Indianapolis Colts go up against the Vikings on Sunday Night Football. We'll see what's going on there. And, of course, keep up to date on that front. But the King, I've gone 26-plus minutes into this, and I've mentioned maybe just him in passing. But we got to make sure that number 22, the league's leading rusher at 30, soon to be 31, gets his due. Because I guess for his standards, he says it wasn't a game that he'll remember. He's got a lot to work on. He wasn't happy with his performance. But yet, here he goes. He's climbing historical milestones and accolades and charts and lists. 106 yards, 2 touchdowns for the King, 13 forced missed tackles. Oh, that's just a ridiculous number. That's tied for the most missed tackles forced in a game this season. He's accounted for 2 of the top 3 games in missed tackles forced on the ground this year. Derrick just continues to demoralize. 23 carries, 106 yards, 4.6 per carry, 2 total touchdowns, as I mentioned. And he chipped in a reception that went for 27 as well. He was targeted just once, so he can help out in that category as well. The players since 2014 with 1,000-plus rushing yards and 12-plus touchdowns in their team's first 10 games. He joins a list with the 2019 version of Christian McCaffrey in Carolina. 2 players that are just utterly elite, utterly dominant. And look at this list. He passed the following players on the all-time rushing touchdown list: the great Barry Sanders, the great Marshall Faulk, and the great Shaun Alexander. He is in a league of his own. And the fact that he's doing this, soon to be 31, it's got to be talked about. Look at this. He ranks first in rushing attempts, first in rushing yards, first in yards per rush, per carry, first in rushing touchdowns. He scored a touchdown in every single game the Ravens have played. And he's the first player to lead, and this is courtesy of NFL on CBS. He's the first player to lead the NFL in all 4 categories. You got to go back to 1963 when the great Jim Brown did so. So, yeah, 9 games in, day 2 of free agency, he had to wait. 2 years, $16 million is what the Ravens gave him. I think Brian McFarland noted today that he hit one of his incentive marks in the contract, meaning he triggered a $500,000 bonus. That's certainly deserved. What a bargain. I mean, what a bargain Derrick Henry is proving to be. I saw a statistic going around today that he's the 285th highest paid player in the NFL, and yet he's squarely in the conversation for Offensive Player of the Year. It took him 9 games, guys. 9, not even. He did in the third quarter to reach 1,000 rushing yards. He passed some of the league's greats that they've ever seen at the running back position. Multiple of them. And it's an off game for him, and he's not even excited about it. Like, it's just, I just hope that I hope that the flock can appreciate the era of Ravens football that you're witnessing right now. And here's the duo behind it all.
Dynamic duo of these two here. And what can you say about how explosive this offense was? Describe the clinic you put on today.
Oh, man, I don't even know what to call it. I always say it's a pick your poison offense, and that's pretty much what we showed today. He ran the ball, you know how he always do. Justice came through. Offensive line played terrific. Tight ends, receivers, whole 9 yards. Everyone did their job. That's why we were successful.
Derrick, for you, another 100-yard game, but over 1,000 yards, and it's just week 9. What is it about this Baltimore, this team, that allows you to have such success?
Well, I think it's everybody involved, but it starts with him. You know, he opens it up for everybody, the type of player he is. Man, it's so dynamic. He makes everybody's job easier. You know, when the ball's in his hands, and, you know, we're in a good spot. But I think everybody just locking in, all 11 of us, focus on execution and getting to the end zone. And, you know, our play callers doing a great job as well, our coaches.
You know, I know it's early, but you two are going to have to duke it out for the MVP later this season. How are you going to handle that?
No, that's his. That's his. He deserves it. He deserves it all, man. MVP. MV3, what we call it, MV3.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Appreciate
Enjoy.
Man, the humility that these two continually show in their media sessions, it honestly is admirable. Tongsley dropping a $20 super chat donation in tonight. Appreciate you as always, my friend. Broncos wins. The Bucks, Jets, Raiders, Saints, and Panthers. Maybe that's why their defensive stats were or are so good. I mean, I guess they still will be after this clunker for them. But yeah, they were not battle-tested coming in. I think we all kind of understood that. Their defense obviously stood up against those teams, but if you rank those teams, aside from the Bucks by DVOA, you'll find that there's not a lot of efficiency there to go around. Captain Hard says, if we give up draft capital, I don't think it would affect us as long as we got Lamar. Seen him do more with less, so let's go all in. I appreciate the super chat. And I will say, as I mentioned in the postgame, I mentioned on X, I got some pushback here for whatever reason, but I'll continue to say it because it's true. The Ravens have to be all in right now. I'm not saying that the window will close like some said last year. As long as Lamar Jackson's suiting up in Baltimore and is healthy, the window will be open. But the facts are the facts. Todd Monken, in last year's offseason head coaching hiring cycle, got looks from multiple teams. He's going to get more looks in just a few short months from right now. And you'd only get so many looks throughout your career. And while people can always talk about, oh, he's better as a defensive coordinator, he's better as a coordinator, he's better as an assistant. If you're in the coaching business, more often than not, everybody wants to take their shot. It's a coveted position, and there's only 32 of them. And so Todd's going to want to get after that opportunity and interview his ass off to get his dream job. Lamar Jackson, his cap hit in 2025 skyrockets to $43 million. That comes with consequences from a team building perspective. When you look at that from a front office perspective, those are just the facts. The Ravens have to be all in between now and Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern because the way this defense is playing right now, we'll give them their flowers today at times. And we discussed that in detail on the Vault postgame show if you haven't already checked it out. They still gave up well over 300 yards. The middle of the field was still soft. There were still big plays. And Bo Nix, like every other opposing quarterback has enjoyed in recent weeks, had an opportunity to pitch a tent, start a campfire, and why not make some gosh darn s'mores in the pocket. The pass rush was not getting home, not getting off their blocks. They have to improve. I know they're banged up from an interior defensive line standpoint, but this team needs another body, a game-changing body, and I think the Ravens should be willing to sacrifice what they covet so much when it comes to draft capital to bring in a game-changing player to help them get even to an average ranking defensively speaking. Because in 2 months from now, if we're talking about this unit as the group that held this group back collectively, that's going to be a remarkable disappointment that we'll talk about for a very long time. Back to the guest lines we go. Then we'll get to the third member of the trio, Zay Flowers, of course, who had a massive game. Julian's been waiting, and then Chef is on line 2. What's up, gentlemen? How you guys doing?
Bobby, you slide dog, you.
I knew you'd be highly invested.
You know I was going to get you, man. I was on your pregame live early. I was like, this guy is just... It's Magzilla right now. What's going on? Got the singer on. Like let me get her. Let me get her.
You know what? I really blame Asmodeus because Richard, who goes by Asmodeus, came up from Virginia. He was kind enough to come up and enjoy the Be More Around Town experience where I do all my pregame shows.
Yeah.
And then he says he's got a stogie for me. And I'm thinking to myself, man, aside from London, I've never even had a drink on game day all these years that I've covered the team because it's your job. Now, I did make one exception a couple weeks ago. I think it was the Commanders game that this woman said it was her birthday and she was like dying for me to take a Jello shot with her, and I did, and it was like a Jello shot. It is what it is. Now, London, I had a few pregame. I'll tell you that. But this time around, I never ever do anything other than just water and energy drinks, as you guys know.
Right.
Today was a little bit different because Asmodeus comes in, he hands me a stogie, and I thought it'd be fun to do it on the air.
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden, he's talking, or Houston's talking, and in the distance, I'm seeing this girl up on the table, and she's dancing, not like scandalously, not without any clothes on, blah, blah, blah. Like she just was having fun. And I thought to myself, athletic, tall, brunette, fearless, friendly. I was like, I'm gonna call my shot right there.
There you go.
I sent Asmodeus over there. He's got a cup of JMO. He's got a cup of JMO, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I asked him, I remember this. I go, is that JMO? Is that Jameson gonna get you to where you need to be? Can you go up there and talk to her for me? He goes, fuck, I'll go up there. No, I'm going up there without the Jameson. I'll do it regardless. I said, you're my guy, right? So he goes up there. Somehow he gets the job done. She comes over. Her parents are watching. They're taking photos. And long story short, we'll get into more details at the end of the show. There's a texting conversation happening right now, so we'll see.
Yeah, I got you. Me and Taylor was in the chat. Was like, oh, which one of us going to say something? I was like, no, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get him later. I'm gonna get him later. So she was like, yo, go get him. So I was just laughing at that. So I had to get you. But back to the game. It was a great win.
Back to the real game.
The real game. Not your game. Your game was good. Hopefully it goes further. So we'll see what I did. But the actual game, football game. But this game, I wasn't really too worried about it at all. I know I say that a lot. I said that in the Commanders game. It's just certain games on the schedule I wasn't worried about. This is one of them. I mean, I get the Broncos had a good defense, but I wasn't really worried about them like that because they, everybody said they wasn't tested. Defense, as good as they are, they was not tested by a true elite offense like us. And it showed today. I mean, they couldn't handle the pressure that we put on them. And we put up 41 points. Could have been more severe, but we did what we could. And it's just like, there's been a theme for his offense. Pick your poison. Who are you going to stop? One minute it could be Zay Flowers. Then after that, the next game he could be quiet. Then it'd be Isaiah Likely. Then it could be Bateman 1 minute. He'll shine 1 minute. Then it could be Mark Andrews catching touchdown. And then you want to stop the air. Okay, we'll just run the ball on you. And then it's like it's just video game like numbers that we're putting up right now.
Julian, it's a relentlessness. It is a relentlessness. It's just variety. It's balance. It's a full-fledged arsenal. And Todd Monken is showing off phenomenal creativity. How about the Derrick Henry screen, right? How about the involvement of Justice Hill?
Yeah.
How about the approach on early downs? Todd deserves his flowers, and that's why I continue to say that you guys better appreciate it while he's here.
Yeah.
He's dialing this thing up. There's a lot of guys that need involvement, that need their touches. And unfortunately, Mark and Isaiah, just game plan wise, they were not in that today.
Yeah.
3 combined targets for your tight ends. That's unheard of in Baltimore. And yet it ends up in a throttle. I mean, it's a throttling. It's a pummeling. We're not even talking about that.
Yeah, it's crazy because, I never seen an offense that like we had, because when you think about it like this, I've seen offenses in the past for the Ravens when we had like Kyle Bowler at quarterback. I'll take you back to that. Chris Redmond at quarterback. It's been always been the defense to carry the offense because they couldn't carry their own weight. Now, fast forward now to this year, and fast forward to when we got Lamar. Now it's a different story. Now it's flip-flop. Now the offense is the one that's carrying the load. This offense is going to be the reason why we get to where we get to. But on the flip side, our defense, which has always been our staple in our history, we got to improve that. I don't know how you do it. I mean, this could be what we are now, but we've got to find consistency there.
Yes.
In the pass rush is going to have to be the only way to do it because you can't really fix the communication issues. And it's like in week 9 now, week 8.
We've been
saying it. we were entering week 10, and they've been saying, "Oh, it's the little things we got to fix. It's this and that and the third." But watching at press conferences, it's always the same, thing they always say. But I'm like, all right, you say that, but in the game, you got guys like Bo Nix, you got guys, quarterbacks like that. They're just having all day in the pocket and do whatever they want, and there's no pressure, there's no push. I'm not seeing that, and there's no difference in pass rush. So you're going to have to get a guy that's going to be a game changer on defense up front, because if you don't have that type of pass rush, the quarterbacks are just going to eat that defense alive.
Yeah,
And
and you
they're going
can't
to be the
expect
reason.
30 plus week in and week out, especially when you get to January and you're going up against top 5, top 10 defenses in all categories. And so
Yeah.
that really becomes the motivation. So Joel,
Yeah. I
appreciate you,
just
brother.
don't. Yeah. Only thing I will say is I just cannot take another shootout this Thursday. Cannot not handle it, because I'm going to the game this Thursday anyway. So
Okay.
hopefully it doesn't lead to that. But I'll catch you later, Bobby.
Always appreciate you for the call, brother.
Do your thing, man.
Now we got to talk about the last element. We'll get back to the guest lines in just a second. I promise, Chef. I promise, Mike. The ending of the trio, the final part and piece of the trio that is Lamar, Derrick, and Zay, is number 4. And look at what he did at the half. 4 catches, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns for the whiz kid. And I think I owe Zay an apology, to be honest with you. You want to know why? Oftentimes when referring to Zay, I say he's wide receiver 1 in Baltimore, but he's not an NFL number 1. Dare I say that Zay, maybe not on all 32 teams, but on double-digit teams in this league, is a number 1? He's playing like it. 127 receiving yards on the day, 2 receiving touchdowns, and this is a guy that touches every blade of grass. He's the first Ravens player to total 100 yards receiving and 2 touchdown catches in a game since Marquise Brown did so in 2019. And it was the first time in his young career that he's had multiple receiving touchdowns in a game. He brings an element of speed. He brings an element of flavor. And he's somebody that just adds to the concoction that is the pick your poison type of mindset that the Ravens present. The veteran, Mr. Nelson Aguilar, who has been certainly a topic of conversation this week, given Deontay Johnson's emergence. Deontay didn't play that often today. I assume his snap count was going to be low. We'll take a look at what that was. He was featured a little bit early, often, and then a little featured a little bit early, and then a little bit towards the end. I can't imagine he was more than 10 or 15 snaps. But Nelly, of course, has Deontay staying with him in Owings Mills or wherever his place is here for the time being while he gets acclimated. He's been nothing short of a team guy. We know he's got the Floridian background. He had a catch today. He caught the one football that came his way for 29 yards, 1 target. He also drew a holding call, by the way, on Patrick Surtain, who's their all-world corner in Denver. But here he is post-game, courtesy of Karita Parks, who for Bowie TV had a one-on-one with Nelly.
Zay Flowers, what steps, big game for him today, what steps have you seen from him just from progression from year 1 to year 2?
It's always important when you have such a great first year to have the hunger and the excitement to just compete in the next year. And I think that's what makes him who he is. He came here as a rookie, very hungry, anxious to just compete. He came here as a second year, even hungrier, anxious and excited to make plays, compete, and be a focal point. And that's what he does.
Veteran presence, a glue guy, somebody who, he had a big 3rd down drop in Cleveland on Sunday. That was brutal. 1 of 3, that all of which came on 3rd down, the other 2 from Rashad Bateman. But you know what? I like Nelly, and I hope that he in some way, small sample size, remains somewhat of a contributing factor in the Ravens offense. I would expect Deontay eventually here, once he gets his feet from underneath him, to be that guy, to be that wide receiver 3 for this team behind Zay and Rashad. But we'll see. And I can't wait to see what Deontay brings. Maybe, just maybe, he ends up getting some punt return specialist work. I know Tylen had a nice return today. Chris Collier did as well after getting called out from John Harbaugh in the press conference last week. But yeah, we'll talk special teams and defense here in just a second if you guys want to. But let's bring in Chef. I know he's been holding for a bit, and get your thoughts on not what happened pregame, but in game. No,
yeah,
whatever you want
I
to
don't
ask.
have any comments on pregame, Bobby. But hey, just like the guy previous, I'm gonna be at the next Ravens game Thursday against the Bengals, and I'll be at the Be More around town. So shoot, I might be able to see Bobby in action.
I mean, shoot, maybe we'll just call Madison and be like, "Can I fly you in Thursday night? I want you to meet Chef and Jewel and Asmodeus, and
I am taken. I'm taken.
Well, I'm saying for being my wingman and stuff. Come on now. I know you're taken. I know you got the missus, you got the dog together. You guys are all hot and heavy. I get it.
Actually, you missed it. My dog was actually yelling at me a little bit because he wants to go on his nighttime walk. But I'll make it just short and sweet.
All right.
I love that Todd Monken. It feels like he made every down count, every play count, and also that's on Lamar, on the players as well, execution, everything. But it just felt like from the play calls, every play that he called had obviously has a purpose of gaining yards, obviously, but he made every single one of them count. He put the best play call to give the offense the best advantage to gain yards. And compared to last week where it felt like he was doing that, but then there were also my biggest gripe that Derrick Henry Wildcat play call or the Charlie Kolar one, where it felt like that just wasn't us. I like seeing what we saw this week, where it's just like we know what we were doing. We didn't do anything extra to try and outsmart the defense. We didn't lose ourselves, lose our identity. We ran the ball effectively. Lamar was passing the hell out of the ball. Like we were doing our thing. So that's all I really got to say. Yeah, it was just good to watch. It was a good game.
Thanks for the call, dude. Get that dog outside, will you?
Yeah.
We're about to talk defense right now too, because I think there's just a few things that need to be discussed, especially with what went into the pregame decisions, and that's kind of what I wanted to go down the road of, because it's now been back-to-back weeks of benchings, and both of which came on the back end. You had Marcus from last week in Cleveland, who was a healthy scratch.
Mm-hmm.
He went from that to starting today, made a play on the first snap, was involved in some not so good plays in other areas. And then today's was Eddie Jackson's, which honestly is the least surprising thing you've seen in a long time when it comes to football decision-making. Two dropped interceptions at least last week. The blown assignment there, what's that?
I still count 3. I know the official count is 2, but there was another one where the receiver tipped the ball, hit Eddie Jackson right in his palm, and then he didn't chase after it. But
I agree. But I totally agree. And then the blown assignment there on what became the game-winning play from Jameis last weekend. So, that to me was a no-brainer. Did they get the wrong guy in terms of the benching? I can't say, because we don't know what happened internally. Clearly, Marcus pressed a button. Something happened.
Yeah, I would say it feels as though the defense was moving a lot smoother this game.
Alignment-wise, communication-wise.
Yes. I don't know if communication was flowing around and then it got to Eddie and then it just broke down and then everything went to shit, or you take him out of it and then Marcus Williams is back in with Ardarius Washington and everything's smooth. That's just what I saw. I'm not saying it's all on Eddie Jackson, although he didn't help the defense in a way. But it looked smoother. My biggest gripe about the defense, I said it last week, when you have the quarterback just dead to rights, or when you have him feeling the pressure, because obviously like the Ravens, we get pressure. It's just we can't seal the deal. We'll get an arm on him, and then the quarterback, he'll just hit a little shimmy or something, get the arm off of him, and then next thing you know, he's out of the pocket. That I mean, again, that's an EDC thing. Bring in somebody, bring in somebody who does something. I don't know. I mean, Harbs is doing what he can do to coach it. Defense coordinators and coaches are doing what they can to coach it, but it's been a problem.
I think we'd probably be less harsh today and probably be more receptive to the idea that, oh, you know what? Wow, Bo is a lot more mobile than we would have thought. Like, that guy's elusive. We would be that way, and I still am to a certain extent, but we would be more open to that if it weren't for what we've seen for weeks on end, with Baker having all day, with Jameis having all night. Like, that's just it's not going to cut it. Did you see what Jameis did today? His stat line today should have been it should have been, well, last I'm getting that point.
I know what you're saying.
I'm
His
getting that
stat
point
line
in the night
today
where
should have been his stat line last week. I mean, he was 1 touchdown for 3 interceptions today. Honestly, he should have been 0 touchdowns and 4 interceptions last week, to be honest. But again, that's the thing where it's just like, yeah, silver lining. This win was great. It was terrific. It felt amazing. But when you look around the AFC North and you see Jameis Winston, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, you're like, wow, we lost to that guy.
he could have had 4.
Or you look at, again, around the AFC and you look at Gardner Minshew, who got benched, and you're like, wow, we lost to that guy? It just, again, as a Ravens fan, it's just like, it feels good having these dominating wins, but then, somewhere just where somewhere in that closet right there is that ugly Ravens loss that's gonna come out of nowhere, and it's gonna be like, hey guys,
right?
So remember when you were clicking on all cylinders? Like, it happens.
Exactly. And so that's why it's like, you can give the full explanation and 40 plus minutes worth of content I think we did in the earlier show on the offense, but when you flip the page, there are good things that happened today, and you like to see Marcus kind of get back in the fold and make that play right off the jump. And I'm not sure I'm going to get too hard on him when it comes to the 4th and 2 trickery there with Cortland Sutton throwing the touchdown pass to Bo, because I think Marcus had multiple assignments there, and it just became utterly chaotic. By the way, Sean was reckless from the jump. This dude was ultra aggressive on 4th down, and the Ravens stood tall on 4th down. Now, some of those were just Bo misses, Bo missed opportunities. I'm sure if you're in Denver land right now, you're thinking about last week's segment for the Ravens, which is missed opportunities. But the reality is 6-3 through 9 weeks, Cincinnati looming. Second half of the schedule starts now. Bye week still a month away. Not a bad spot to be in.
Yeah, not bad at all. But I mean, one week at a time. So, gotta see what Cincinnati's up to when they come down to be more.
Thank you for finishing my sentence. I'm at the point in the day where I become mush. I'm in mush mode right now. So,
but Bobby, you already know Sarah's gonna tell you to sleep, but I mean, we all know it's not gonna happen.
I'm lovesick. Get your dog taken care of. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, I'll catch you later.
Thank you. So, yeah, of course, the defensive notes here. Eddie Jackson was benched. David Ojabo, back-to-back healthy scratch weeks for a guy who, dare I say, he's a descending player right now. When they took a flyer on him and drafted him a couple of years ago out of Michigan after the Achilles tear, you'd have to think, okay, well, we're not going to get him for his rookie year. And then he ends up being kind of banged up his sophomore season. And you're thinking, okay, this guy's actually going to be a breakout player in year 3. And it hasn't been the case. This is a guy that you could argue has fallen victim to the numbers game the last 2 weeks, meaning they've needed to beef up their interior defensive line with Michael Pierce being on IR, Brent Urban being in concussion protocol, Josh Tupou and Chris Wormley were brought up from the practice squad, played big roles today for the Ravens. Trey Travis Jones is banged up. I feel like I hit my wall like 2 minutes ago randomly. I was chugging along, and then I just like, bang. My brain just like stops working. Travis Jones is banged up with the ankle. Like, he was really limited today. And so I think that just got to a point where it was like, we need more bodies. Now, regardless, it's disappointing that David's like, oh, you know what? Okay, David, we don't need him. Let's healthy scratch him the next couple of weeks. We'll revisit him. Like, that's where it's gotten. So I find that to be highly disappointing. The Roquan conversation, while he's still a top 2 tackle getter, I think is when I last checked, he was a top 2 in the league in sacks. He's just slow. He looks slow. I hate to say that. I get zero satisfaction out of saying that. Rowe's my guy. But he looks slow in the middle of the field, and he's a half step behind. And he's taking tough angles. Where was he today in terms of, only 3 tackles for Rowe today. Good against the run, tough cooking against the pass. Especially with some of these shiftier players. He has a hard time staying in front of guys. Kyle Hamilton, exceptional as usual. 10 total tackles, 7 of which were solo. He had a tackle for loss and a pass deflection. Trenton Simpson, Trenton was flying around today. 9 total tackles, 7 of which are solo. A sack at the end there. 2 tackles for loss, pass deflection, and a quarterback hit. Trenton was flying around. That's a sweet stat line right there. Stevens, I thought, struggled in coverage. Still got caught with his head turned around, not having ball awareness. That's something that's going to come back to bite him. It already has. Tough year for Brandon after a breakout campaign last year. It's a contract season for Brandon, too, which sucks for him personally. Ardarius Washington, of course, on snap number 2, intercepted Bo Nix. So the Jugs machine reps pay off for Ardarius. Who else was involved here? Marcus Williams had 3 tackles, one of which was on that first play of the game. Big day for Tavius Robinson. He was setting a nice edge. 3 tackles, 2 of which were solo, 2 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, a pass deflection, and 4 quarterback hits. Nice day for Tavius. So one player's going in one direction in Ajabo, and another's going in a completely different one than in Tavius. Tavius is ascending. Ajabo appears to not even be involved in their plan right now, which is tough. How about Sanusi Kane always making a play on special teams? I like Sanusi. Dude's a baller. What other defensive notes do I have for you guys? Well, this is not a great note. The Ravens allowed 18 passing touchdowns all of last year, which was a historical season, no question. But they've already allowed 18 through 9 weeks. 18 passing touchdowns. The days of trying to compare and contrast and look back and compare it to the here and now, those are long over. Long over. And I think the more that we can accept that, the better. It's just need a game-changing player between now and Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, which, of course, Sarah and I will be busy. It's going to be a short week with Thursday Night Football, and you get the deadline day on Tuesday. This is going to be an insane week. I would love for you guys to connect with me on the Bobby Baltimore Discord server if you haven't already done so. It is free, and it is a 24/7 hub for conversations surrounding Baltimore sports. We're coming up on 600 members in here, and I think it's a great community. I don't participate in it as much as I should just because I have so much on my plate. But I know a lot of people everywhere else does, and I would love for you guys to check it out. I just dropped the link in the live chat. And as you can see right now, there's always activity in here. So click the link that I just dropped in the live chat. It won't always be free, but it is right now. Talk Ravens football. There's a baseball group in here as well, talking Orioles. There's a general chat where people apparently send food. Craig Zero. This tastes too good after a Ravens. What's he got there? What's he got? A little pork? Is that pork or steak? But he's got some broccoli. Look at the pasta on the side. The pasta looks like it's got some meat in it too, or some kind of sauce. All right, Craig. Love it. Okay, he's also weighing in about the. Oh, look at this. Craig says Bobby's got his future wife, and we saw the origin story of it. Okay. Not just football being talked about in the Bobby Baltimore Discord server. A little bit of everything, including the play-by-play. Madison has made her debut in the Discord server. God, if she's watching this right now, she's either going to be thrilled or extremely creeped out. I'll let you guys pick which one that would be. But as always, you can donate to the channel through Venmo, Cash App, or the YouTube Super Chat feature. Special thanks to Tongsley and Captain Hard for today's chats. You guys are the best. You can connect with me on Instagram. I may have to put up a separate video of today's segment with Madison. Would you guys enjoy that? If I take the time after, right now, between now and midnight, when I'm going to go to bed, to essentially clip out the 15, 20 minutes or whatever it was when Madison was on the show, would you guys appreciate that for those of you who didn't catch it? I'll see your comments after in the live chat, and I'll make that decision. You can find me on Twitter and X at Bobby Baltimore. You can connect with me on Instagram at Bobby Baltimore as well. My post-game thoughts, by the way. It's a new Instagram reel formatting that I'm doing post-game every single day, every single day, that is. And I feel like this is a cool new thing that I'm trying to do to grow the account. I don't know. I'll let you guys decide. But here's the way it looks. Let me know what you think. Post-game thoughts. Ravens improved to 6-3 after dominating the Broncos at home, 41-10. Lamar's MVP campaign tour continues. 16 of 19, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, a perfect passer rating for the 4th time in his career. It takes Derrick Henry just 9 games to hit the 1,000-yard rushing mark. Right here. Dude's 1 of 1. Zay Flowers acting like a wide receiver 1, 100-plus receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Here's what I'm thinking about, though, more so than anything else after 9 weeks. The time is now. The Ravens cannot afford to not be all in between now and the NFL trade deadline, which is coming up this week. I'll tell you why. Lamar's 2025 cap hit skyrockets to over $43 million. It gets difficult, more and more difficult to team build from a front office perspective with that. Todd Monken, offensive coordinator, the way this offense is clicking, he is bound to get more head coaching opportunities. He already did last offseason when the next hiring cycle comes up in just a few months from right now. The time is now. The Ravens understand that. You would think they got Deontay Johnson, obviously, on the offensive side of the ball last week. I hope they're not done. 4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. They got to get better defensively. You cannot continue to lean on the offense the way they have pretty much every single game so far this year. All right, you guys get the point. Hit me up. Leave a comment. Helps out the algorithm. But this is kind of hilarious that people are blowing up my spot like this on Instagram. Quetzalf says, great game and win, but forget about anything about it. The important question is, what happened with that girl in the pregame show? This self-made JC says, Bobby, did you get the number? LOL. Some douchebag says, Bobby not from Baltimore. I swear to God, some people are hilariously upset. Fake mad, I call it, about the fact that I'm not a fan of Baltimore sports. It's hilarious. This is just, I don't know what this comment is. I'm going to have to delete it. You dominated that chick during tailgating? That's going to be a hard no for me. What if her mother sees it? Anyway, connect with me on social media if you haven't already done so. You know the drill. At Bobby Baltimore. I appreciate you guys, as always, for being here. The Discord link, the Preston Automotive link, the Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff is in the show notes. Go check it out. Support the show if you can. You know we'll be back around, turning around quickly tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern inside the vault. Me and Sarah will be back, and of course, we'll be afterwards. John Harbaugh, I think, speaks tomorrow at 2:30. Maybe it'll be later since it's a short week. I don't know what the schedule is going to be. I'm sure the Ravens will make us aware of it, but I look forward to it, and I appreciate all of you guys for spending some time with me here tonight. We had over 1,100 concurrents on tonight's show, which is super cool. And please, if you're in the Twitter space, come support me over on YouTube. It helps out immensely, and I would appreciate it if you guys would like the video on the way out. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell if you haven't already done so. And it's time for Tilly and I, just like Chef and his dog did, to take a walk around Canton with my pocket knife. Just kidding. Am I? All right, people. For Madison and Sarah and Tilly and all 1,100 plus of you, I appreciate you guys for making it a banner day in Baltimore. I'm on the next flight to Nashville. Gonna find a white picket fence, an in-home humidor, trampoline in the backyard for our future kids, a pool, and a whole lot of love. And before I say something I shouldn't, good night, everybody. Enjoy yourselves. Later.